Sleepy Hollow Season 2, Episode 5, The Weeping Lady. A great episode, but it was really interesting, mostly because we got to see some really crazy stuff that happened between Ichabod as well as his wife Katrina. And Ichabod's a bit of a heartbreaker in this episode where in one way he's a heartbreaker, but in another way he just broke up with a woman who is insanely jealous of pretty much any woman that he ever talked to. So it was really interesting that the big bad of this episode was actually a spirit brought back to life because it was someone that he knew, and it was actually, of course, by his son who really doesn't care about him at all. So the entire point was to try to destroy Ichabod by going after women that he held dear, people in general, but mostly the women in his life. And it was really good. I really enjoyed the fact that the creature in this episode was actually really creepy looking. It was also really cool, the special effects they had where with her having been killed by water, that was sort of the thing. She would drown people in the water. But when she went after Abigail, it was really, really cool. It looked really cool that she was sucked into a portal, and the portal actually took her to the river where the bridge was, but Ichabod was able to pull her back out through the portal and save her life. And something they didn't really touch on in this episode was when he was standing over her, he didn't know CPR, and that's when Holly came in to save her life. I thought that was pretty interesting because he's back from the olden days during the war, and they didn't have CPR. So I thought that was something that really stood out to me because it was realistic, and it's something I was hoping they would touch on it just as a random bit of dialogue, like you really need to learn CPR, but they kind of skipped over that. But I still enjoyed it. It was a very good episode. Having the tension between Ichabod and his wife, especially by the end where he's kind of talking like he just wants basically a divorce, it was really good. It separated them as characters and as lovers because they have this really tight knit bond because, of course, they're married. But they had a really interesting relationship where she was going to marry his best friend, of course, and then they ended up together because they liked each other more. And he ended up killing his best friend who came back to life as the Horseman. So it's a very unique relationship that they have. And in this episode, it was really tested. It was just another lie that was found out by Ichabod, and this one was much worse than some of the other stuff. Of course, like her being a spy for Washington, and maybe her being a witch, considering the time when they were initially alive. That probably was a really bad secret back then as well. But her having faked this letter, and she didn't kill the woman. She was responsible for her own death, really, because she was just obsessed with Ichabod and couldn't accept the fact that they weren't together, which I'm sure they still had feelings for each other but at that time, but they were really sure that they weren't going to do anything because of the relationships that were being built, the marriage that Katrina was going to have to Ichabod's best friend. But the woman didn't believe that, and she got herself killed, and Katrina had to hide that because she knew how Ichabod would react. So it was a really interesting secret for her to have, and he finds out in this episode, and it really tears them apart. And it led to another great scene between the Horseman and Katrina where she does genuinely thank the Horseman because he really cared about her. And he did let Ichabod live because she asked him to. So, although I don't think she'll just suddenly fall in love with the guy because he's the Horseman and he's the bad guy, it did give them an actual connection. And I know it put a lot of faith in him where he's like, oh, this plan's really going to work where she's going to genuinely fall in love with me and be turned. But I'm sure that's not going to happen. And then he's just really going to be disappointed when he's like, I could have killed Ichabod off as well as Abby and the witnesses would be done for. And, we could just go on with the apocalypse and everything would be fine. But it was definitely a great episode. We even got to see at the end of the episode when Moloch confronted Henry about bringing the woman back. He mentions how Katrina has to be turned because she's one of the Hellfire Shards. So that adds another great plot point to the series. And apparently she's the vessel, so I don't know if that's for Moloch to take over or maybe for another Horseman to permanently take over, but it's just another good plot point that I'm very interested to see. And Henry in these last couple episodes has just kind of been getting hit left and right. Like his mom sort of hit him with living in their old home. She kind of hit him mentally, and so that affected him, and he burned his old bed that he was actually burned in. And in the end of this episode, he came up with a plan. He was trying to distract Ichabod and sort of take him down a little bit, and that failed. And Moloch got really mad, and he was really upset by the end of this episode because it was kind of like his boss, as well as the guy who wants to take over all mankind, was really upset with him, and he didn't feel too good about the crappy job he did. So it's interesting to see his path kind of spiraling downward, and he's just constantly seems to be getting hit with more and more stuff that's taking him down mentally, because he's a really mental character, and you can tell that by all the crazy stuff he does, especially the entire secret of him being their son. He, of course, hid that. So I like seeing him be taken down mentally because that's where his strength lies. And now he's becoming weaker in each episode. But overall, definitely a great episode. Of course, comment below, let me know what you guys thought about it. Your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And for next week, they're doing something really big. They're going to have everyone in the episode. Abby, Jenny, who also apparently used to hook up with Holly in the past. But everyone's going to be in the episode, so I'm really excited for that one. But as far as this one goes, I think it was a really good story, and I want to know, what do you guys think about this new chunk of history from Ichabod's life? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think it was just a crappy random love story? What did you guys think about it? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.